The morning sun sparkled off the pristine glass windows of Park's fine jewelry in Beverly Hills. Inside, Hae-Jin Park stood behind the main counter, adjusting his perfect blue tie. At 28 years old, he was the youngest store manager in the company's history. His father had often told him that success came from careful attention to detail, and Hae-Jin lived by those words. Jae-won, please make sure the sapphire collection is properly arranged. He called out to his senior sales associate. Ji-won Lee nodded and moved gracefully toward the display cases, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor. The store had just opened for the day when Hyun-woo Kim, their security guard, walked in through the staff entrance. 3 jewelry stores were robbed last week in Los Angeles, he reported, showing Hae-Jin a news article on his phone. The thieves wore casual clothes to blend in. Hae-Jin frowned. The news made him nervous. Their store carried pieces worth millions of dollars. He had worked too hard to let anything go wrong under his watch. The morning passed quietly until the bell above the door chimed at 11:30 a.m. A tall black man walked in wearing a gray hoodie, faded jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. Hae-Jin's heart rate increased immediately. The man's casual clothes stood out sharply against the store's luxury setting. Jae-won approached the customer with her usual warm smile, but Hae-Jin could see tension in her shoulders. The man spoke with a deep, commanding voice that somehow seemed familiar. "I'm looking for something special," he said, moving toward the most expensive case. Hae-Jin watched as the man bent down to examine a stunning diamond necklace worth $300,000. The security training videos flashed through his mind. Criminals often looked at the most valuable pieces first to plan their theft. "Sir," Hae-Jin called out, his voice higher than usual. "May I see some ID?" The man straightened up slowly. There was something about his presence that filled the room. "I'm just looking right now," he replied calmly. Hae-Jin's palms felt sweaty. The recent robbery reports, the casual clothes, the interest in their most expensive pieces, it all added up in his mind to spell danger. He made a quick decision. "Hyun-woo," he said sharply, "please escort this person out." The security guard stepped forward, but something made him hesitate. The customer turned fully toward Hae-Jin now, and recognition hit like a lightning bolt. Those distinctive features, that commanding presence. This was Samuel L. Jackson, one of Hollywood's most famous actors. But it was too late. The words had been spoken. The damage had been done. "I see," Jackson said quietly. His voice carried decades of similar experiences. "You're making a big mistake, but I understand why you're making it." Jae-won gasped, finally recognizing him too. She stepped forward. "Mr. Jackson, please." He held up his hand. "No need to explain. I came here to buy something special for my daughter's wedding." He smiled, but his eyes held disappointment. "I'll take my business elsewhere." The actor walked out with dignity, leaving behind a deafening silence. Hae-Jin felt the floor shifting under his feet as the full weight of his terrible mistake crashed down on him. Through the window, he saw someone in the street pointing a phone at Jackson, recording. Hae-Jin knew, with horrible certainty, that his perfect world was about to change forever. He had just made the kind of mistake that could destroy careers, reputations, and lives, all because he had let fear cloud his judgment. The morning sun still sparkled on the windows, but now it felt like it was illuminating his shame for all the world to see. Within minutes of Samuel L. Jackson's departure, the quiet jewelry store transformed into a scene of chaos. Customers who had witnessed the incident stood frozen, their phones raised like accusatory fingers. Hae-Jin Park felt his professional mask cracking as whispers filled the air. Jae-won Lee, the senior sales associate, approached her manager with tears in her eyes. "How could you do that?" she asked, her voice trembling. That was Samuel L. Jackson. He was here for his daughter's wedding. Hae-Jin opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. The security guard, Hyun-woo Kim, stood by the door looking uncomfortable. He had been following orders, But even he knew they had crossed a line. Outside the store, a small crowd had gathered. Several people were pointing their phones through the windows, recording the aftermath. He-jin could see their angry faces, their disapproving looks. His perfect world was unraveling thread by thread. The store phone began to ring. He-jin picked it up with shaking hands. "This is Thomas Chen from the Beverly Hills Daily," a voice said. "We received video footage of your store discriminating against actor Samuel L. Jackson. Would you care to comment?" He-jin placed the phone down without answering. His chest felt tight. The morning's events played over and over in his mind. Jackson's calm demeanor, the baseball cap, the hoodie, his own fear-driven response. "We should close the store," Jae-won suggested, watching more people gather outside. Some held signs hastily made with paper and markers. One read, "Shea ni on you." He-jin nodded numbly. As Hyunwoo began asking customers to leave, He-jin's phone buzzed. It was a message from his father. "Son, what have you done? It's already on Twitter." With trembling fingers, He-jin opened Twitter. His heart sank. The video had gone viral, with thousands of shares already. The comments were brutal. "Disgusting behavior from Park's fine jewelry. They just humiliated a Hollywood legend. This is what racism looks like in 2024. Jae-won touched his shoulder gently. "The corporate office is online too," she said softly. He-jin picked up the phone again, knowing his career was hanging by a thread. The voice of Mrs. Song, the regional director, was cold and precise. "He-jin, you have exactly 1 hour to prepare a statement," she said. "The company's reputation is at stake. If you cannot fix this, you understand what it means." He understood perfectly. Everything he had worked for could disappear because of one terrible decision. As they closed the store's doors, He-jin caught a glimpse of his reflection in the spotless windows. He barely recognized himself. The confident young manager was gone, replaced by someone who looked lost and afraid. "What do we do now?" Hyunwoo asked, standing guard by the door as photographers from local news stations began to arrive. He-jin sat down heavily in his office chair. The security footage from the incident played on his computer screen. He watched himself, a stranger in his own skin, as he ordered Samuel L. Jackson to leave. The actor's dignity in the face of discrimination made He-jin's actions look even worse. "We made a terrible mistake," He-jin finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And now we have to face the consequences." Outside, the crowd grew larger. Inside, 3 employees sat in silence, watching their careers and reputations crumble. The morning sun no longer sparkled on the windows. Instead, it illuminated the growing number of news vans pulling up to the curb. The confrontation was over, but the real storm was just beginning. By evening, the video of Samuel L. Jackson being asked to leave Park's fine jewelry had spread across every major social media platform. He-jin Park sat in his darkened office, watching his phone light up with endless notifications. Each buzz felt like another nail in his career's coffin. The store's social media pages were flooded with angry comments. People shared their own stories of facing discrimination in luxury stores. Celebrity friends of Jackson began posting about the incident. The store's rating dropped from 5 stars to 1 star in just 6 hours. "He-jin," Jae-won called from the doorway. "Entertainment Tonight is doing a segment about us right now." He turned on the office TV. A serious-looking host was speaking. "In shocking footage from Beverly Hills today, acclaimed actor Samuel L. Jackson was discriminated against at Park's fine jewelry. The store manager, identified as He-jin Park, asked security to remove Jackson from the premises while the actor was shopping for his daughter's wedding." The segment showed the viral video, now viewed by millions. He-jin watched himself make the worst mistake of his life over and over again. His phone rang. It was his mother. "Son," she said softly in Korean, "your father and I are very disappointed. Our community is ashamed. How could you do this to another person?" He-jin felt tears forming in his eyes. I was scared about the recent robberies, Mom. I made a terrible mistake. Fear is no excuse for treating someone like they don't belong, his mother replied. You have brought shame to our family name. After hanging up, He-jin opened his email. Hundreds of messages had arrived. Some threatened to protest outside the store. Others demanded he be fired. Many were from Korean Americans who felt he had damaged their community's reputation. One email caught his eye. It was from his old college professor. He-jin, I remember teaching you about the history of discrimination in America. Today, you became part of that history, but it's not too late to learn from this mistake. Outside the store, news crews were setting up for their evening broadcasts. Hyunwoo, who had stayed late to guard the property, reported that people were leaving angry notes on the windows. Jae-won walked in with printed copies of news articles. The headlines were brutal. Hollywood star humiliated at Beverly Hills jewelry store. Discrimination alive, and wealth and luxury retail. Korean-American manager faces backlash after Jackson incident. He-jin's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Mrs. Song, the regional director. Emergency meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. The CEO is flying in from Seoul. As night fell over Beverly Hills, He-jin remained in his office. The security cameras showed reporters still waiting outside, hoping to catch him leaving. On social media, the hashtag boycott Park jewelry was trending. You should go home, Jae-won said kindly. Tomorrow will be another hard day. He-jin shook his head. How did I let fear blind me so badly? He asked, more to himself than to Jae-won. Mr. Jackson just wanted to buy something special for his daughter's wedding, and I treated him like a criminal. The store's phone rang again. Ji-won answered it, then turned pale. It's Samuel L. Jackson's lawyer, she whispered. He-jin took a deep breath and reached for the phone, ready to face whatever consequences were coming. The day's events had taught him that running from mistakes only made things worse. The next morning arrived with heavy clouds hanging over Beverly Hills. He-jin Park entered the corporate office building at exactly 8:45 a.m., his shoulders stiff under his perfectly pressed suit. The security guard at the desk barely looked at him, but He-jin noticed the man's slight head shake of disapproval. In the elevator, He-jin checked his phone one last time before the meeting. A new article had appeared. Samuel L. Jackson's daughter speaks out. His finger trembled as he opened the link. The article included a photo of Jackson with his daughter, Zoe. She wore a beautiful engagement ring and a sad smile. The caption read, Father-daughter duo were shopping for wedding jewelry when the incident occurred. He-jin felt his stomach turn as he read Zoe's statement. My father has brought joy to millions through his work. He wanted to make my wedding day special by helping choose my jewelry. Instead, he faced the same discrimination he has fought against his entire life. The elevator doors opened to reveal Mrs. Song waiting in the hallway. Her face was a mask of professional concern. The CEO is waiting, she said quietly. The situation has become more serious than we thought. Inside the conference room, Mr. Lee, the CEO from Seoul, sat at the head of the table. His face showed no emotion as He-jin bowed deeply. Several other executives sat around the table, their laptops open to various news websites. He-jin, Mr. Lee began, his voice calm but firm. Do you know why this incident has caused such outrage? Before He-jin could answer, Mr. Lee turned his laptop around. On the screen was a wedding planning website. The article's title read, Samuel L. Jackson's daughter's dream wedding, a father's love. Mr. Jackson was not just shopping, Mr. Lee continued. He was trying to fulfill a promise he made to his daughter when she was young. He told her he would personally select her wedding jewelry, just as his father had done for his mother. He-jin felt the weight of his actions grow even heavier. Each new detail made his mistake more painful. Mr. Lee pressed a button on his laptop, and a video began playing. It showed Jackson in a recent interview, talking about his daughter's upcoming wedding. I want everything to be perfect for my little girl, Jackson said in the clip. I'm even going to personally pick out her jewelry. Make it special, you know. The room fell silent as the video ended. Jin could feel tears forming in his eyes, but he blinked them back. Our company has built its reputation over 50 years, Mr. Lee said. We pride ourselves on treating every customer like family. Yesterday, you broke that trust. Mrs. Song handed Jin a thick folder. These are the customer emails we've received. Many are canceling orders. Some are returning items they previously purchased. The financial impact is significant. Jin opened the folder with shaking hands. The first email was from a longtime customer. I bought my wife's anniversary gift from your store every year for the past decade. Never again. The board will meet this afternoon to discuss your future with the company, Mr. Lee announced. Until then, you are suspended from your duties. As Jin stood to leave, his phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Jae-won. Samuel L. Jackson's lawyer called again. But this time, it's different. They want to arrange a meeting. Mr. Jackson wants to talk to you in person. Jin stared at the message, his heart pounding. What could Samuel L. Jackson possibly want to say to him now? 3 days after the incident, Jin Park sat in his living room, surrounded by newspapers and printouts of online articles. He had not left his apartment since the corporate meeting, afraid to face the public. His phone continued to receive messages from angry people, though he had stopped reading them. The television played quietly in the background when a breaking news alert caught his attention. The reporter stood outside Park's fine jewelry, speaking rapidly. In an unexpected development, actor Samuel L. Jackson has requested a private meeting with the store manager, who asked him to leave the premises 3 days ago. Jin turned up the volume, his hands shaking. Instead of pursuing legal action, the reporter continued, Mr. Jackson expressed interest in having a conversation with the store's staff. Sources close to the actor say he believes this incident could become a teaching moment. The doorbell rang, making Jin jump. He opened it to find Jae-won standing there, looking concerned. Have you seen the news? She asked, stepping inside. Mr. Jackson's lawyer called again. The meeting is set for tomorrow morning. Jin sat down heavily on his couch. Why would he want to meet with me? I treated him terribly. His lawyer said something interesting. Jae-won replied, sitting across from him. Mr. Jackson specifically asked that no lawyers be present. He wants an honest conversation, not a legal battle. Jin's phone rang. It was Mrs. Song from corporate. The board has postponed their decision about your employment, she said. They want to see what happens at tomorrow's meeting first. Outside Jin's apartment building, reporters had begun to gather. Word of the upcoming meeting had spread quickly. Some carried cameras, while others held microphones, ready to catch any statement Jin might make. What should I say to him? Jin asked Jae-won, watching the crowd grow through his window. How do you apologize for something like this? Jae-won picked up one of the newspapers from the coffee table. The headline read, Jackson chooses dialogue over lawsuit. She read a quote from Jackson's spokesperson. Mr. Jackson believes that positive change comes from understanding, not punishment. Jin's mother called next. I saw the news, she said softly. Perhaps this is your chance to make things right, son. As evening approached, Jin received an email from Mr. Jackson's assistant with details about the meeting. It would take place in the jewelry store, with only essential staff present. The message ended with an unexpected note. Mr. Jackson and his daughter both planned to attend. Jin read the email several times, trying to understand. Why would Jackson bring his daughter? Why choose conversation over confrontation? The news channels were asking the same questions, with experts debating Jackson's motives on every station. You should get some rest, Jae-won suggested, standing to leave. Tomorrow will be an important day. That night, Jin could barely sleep. He practiced apologies in his head, imagining what he would say to Jackson and his daughter. But more than that, he wondered what they would say to him. The world would be watching. waiting to see how this story would end. As he finally drifted off to sleep, the last thing He-jin saw was the morning newspaper's headline on his nightstand. Hollywood star offers second chance. Samuel L. Jackson's surprising response to discrimination. The morning of the meeting arrived with unusual clarity in Beverly Hills. He-jin Park arrived at the store an hour early, watching the morning sun reflect off the polished display cases. Outside, news vans lined the street, their satellite dishes reaching toward the sky like metal flowers. At precisely 10 a.m., a black SUV pulled up to the store's entrance. Samuel L. Jackson stepped out, wearing an elegant dark suit. Behind him emerged a young woman in a cream-colored dress, his daughter Zoe. They looked composed and dignified as they approached the door. He-jin stood near the entrance with Jae-won and Hyunwoo beside him. His heart pounded as Jackson entered the store. The actor's presence filled the room, just as it had days before, but this time there was something different in his expression, a determined calmness. "Mr. Jackson," He-jin began, his voice trembling, "I cannot express how deeply sorry." Jackson raised his hand gently, stopping He-jin mid-sentence. "Before you continue," he said, "I want you to meet someone." He turned to his daughter. "This is Zoe. She's getting married in 3 months." Zoe stepped forward, her eyes meeting He-jin's. "My father has always been my hero," she said softly. "Not because of his movies, but because of how he handles moments like this." Jackson moved toward the display case he had been examining on that fateful day. "You know, I've faced discrimination many times in my life," he said, his deep voice carrying through the quiet store. "Each time, I had 2 choices: let anger take over, or turn it into something meaningful." He-jin felt tears forming in his eyes. "I made a terrible assumption based on fear and prejudice," he admitted. "I forgot to see you as a person, as a father shopping for his daughter." Jackson nodded slowly. "That's exactly why I wanted this meeting. Not to shame you, but to show you something." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an old photograph. It showed a young black man being turned away from a store in the 1960s. "This was my father," Jackson explained. "He tried to buy my mother an anniversary gift. They wouldn't let him in the store." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Things have changed since then, but not enough. And change doesn't happen through punishment alone." Zoe touched her father's arm gently. "Dad suggested we come here today because he believes in second chances. He believes people can learn and grow." He-jin could no longer hold back his tears. "I've learned more in these few days than in all my years of management training," he said, "but I don't deserve your forgiveness." "This isn't about deserving," Jackson replied. "It's about choosing to be better. Now let's talk about my daughter's wedding jewelry." He smiled, surprising everyone in the room. "That is, if you're still willing to help us." Jae-won quickly brought out their finest collection. As they began looking at pieces together, He-jin noticed the reporters outside, pressing against the windows, trying to understand what was happening. They had expected drama and conflict. Instead, they were witnessing something far more powerful, a moment of genuine human connection and growth. The morning light streamed through the windows, illuminating the scene. Samuel L. Jackson and his daughter examining beautiful jewelry pieces, while He-jin Park learned what true leadership and forgiveness looked like. 1 month after the meeting with Samuel L. Jackson, Park's fine jewelry had undergone remarkable changes. The store's front window now displayed a large sign that read "Welcome All" in multiple languages. Inside, He-jin Park stood before a group of retail professionals from across Beverly Hills, sharing his story. "Our mistakes can become our greatest teachers," He-jin said to the assembled group. "Mr. Jackson showed me that change begins with honest conversation." The audience listened intently as he described the incident and its aftermath. The corporate office had not only retained He-jin, but had promoted him to lead their new diversity initiative. With Jackson's guidance, the company developed a comprehensive training program that went beyond standard corporate procedures. Jai-won, now the store's assistant manager, led many of these training sessions. She used their experience to help other luxury retailers understand the importance of treating every customer with equal respect and dignity. The store itself had transformed. New hiring practices brought in a more diverse staff. The security protocols were redesigned to focus on suspicious behavior rather than appearances. Even Hyunwoo had received advanced training in respectful customer interaction. One morning, Ho-jin received an unexpected email from Samuel L. Jackson's publicity team. The actor had mentioned Park's fine jewelry during a television interview, praising their commitment to change. The video clip quickly went viral, but this time for positive reasons. The store didn't just apologize. Jackson said in the interview, "They turned their mistake into a movement." That's how real change happens. The store's transformation attracted attention from major business magazines. A journalist from Business Weekly spent a day observing their new practices. She watched as Ho-jin personally greeted each customer, regardless of their appearance or attire. The incident taught us that luxury is not about exclusivity. Ho-jin explained to the journalist, "It's about making everyone feel valued." The corporate office in Seoul took notice of these changes. They began implementing similar training programs across their global network of stores. Other luxury retailers reached out to learn from their experience. During this time, Ho-jin maintained contact with Jackson and his daughter Zoe. They exchanged emails about the store's progress and the upcoming wedding. Each message reminded Ho-jin of how a moment of prejudice had transformed into an opportunity for growth. One particularly busy afternoon, Ho-jin noticed an elderly man in worn clothes examining their most expensive watches. In the past, such a sight might have caused concern. Now, Ho-jin approached him with a genuine smile. "Welcome to Park's fine jewelry," he said warmly. "How may I assist you today?" The man turned out to be a retired investment banker, shopping for his grandson's graduation gift. He purchased one of their finest pieces, commenting on how refreshing it felt to be treated with respect. That evening, as Ho-jin prepared the day's reports, he found a new email from Jackson. It included a photo of Zoe trying on wedding jewelry they had selected together. The message read, "Sometimes the worst moments in life can lead to the best changes. Keep up the good work." The store's transformation had become a case study in corporate responsibility and human dignity. But for Ho-jin, it was more than that. It was a daily reminder that people could learn, grow, and change for the better. 1 year had passed since the incident that changed Park's fine jewelry forever. The store's interior glowed with warm light as Ho-jin Park adjusted his tie, preparing for a special event. Today marked the anniversary of his meeting with Samuel L. Jackson, and the store was hosting a celebration of transformation. The guest list included retail leaders from across the country, civil rights advocates, and most importantly, Samuel L. Jackson and his daughter Zoe, now happily married. The wedding jewelry they had selected together held a special place in the store's display, serving as a reminder of how a moment of prejudice had become a catalyst for change. "Welcome, everyone." Ho-jin began his speech, standing before the gathered crowd. "1 year ago, I made a terrible mistake in this very store, but through the grace and wisdom of Mr. Jackson and his daughter, that mistake became the beginning of something remarkable." In the audience, Jackson nodded encouragingly. He wore the same kind of casual hoodie he had worn that fateful day. But this time, no one questioned his presence. Next to him, Zoe wore the elegant necklace they had chosen together, its diamonds catching the light. Ho-jin continued, "In the past year, our training program has reached over 500 luxury retail stores. We've helped change policies, reshape attitudes, and most importantly, open hearts and minds." The store's transformation had exceeded all expectations. Their sales had increased by 40% as their reputation for inclusive luxury attracted customers from all backgrounds. The corporate office had made Ho-jin's diversity program mandatory for all their stores worldwide. Jai-Won stepped forward to share her part of the story. "We now have staff members who speak 12 different languages," she announced proudly. "Our customer service training has become a model for the entire industry." As if to demonstrate this change, the store's newest employee, a young woman wearing a hijab, helped an elderly man in work clothes examine expensive watches. No one batted an eye at his appearance. This was the new normal at Park's Fine Jewelry. Samuel L. Jackson took the podium next. "You know," he said, his deep voice filling the room, "I've made many movies about revenge and justice. But true justice isn't about punishment. It's about growth and change. What happened in this store proves that." Zoe shared her perspective as well. "The jewelry I wore at my wedding came from this store," she said, touching her necklace. "Every piece tells a story of transformation. My father taught me that forgiveness can be more powerful than anger." The event attracted media attention, but for different reasons than the viral video from a year ago. Business magazines praised the store's innovative approach to inclusion. Civil rights organizations commended their concrete actions toward change. Near the end of the celebration, He-jin received an unexpected gift. It was a framed photograph showing him with Jackson and Zoe, taken the day they chose her wedding jewelry. Below it was a simple message: "Sometimes our worst moments lead to our finest hours." The store had become more than just a place to buy jewelry. It was a symbol of how people and institutions could learn, grow, and change. As the evening drew to a close, He-jin looked around at the diverse group of customers and staff members mingling together. The legacy of that difficult day had become something beautiful, a reminder that even our mistakes can lead to meaningful change when met with wisdom, forgiveness, and a willingness to learn.